I'm Kevin Rinke, and I'd like to welcome you to Beyond the Echo. I ran for governor in Michigan. After losing that election, my desire to look at issues that are important to the state or the country grew. There is so much static. There are so many opinions. Our news stations have gotten to the point where we don't know what news is anymore. Where do you go to get real facts? This is about real perspective for you. Beyond the Echo will cut through all the smoke, all the opinions. It's not about Republicans. It's not about Democrats. It's about the issues and what are real. Hey guys, it's Kevin Rinke, and I am really excited. I have a guest today, Lorenzo Sewell, Pastor Zoe from Detroit. He spoke at the Republican National Convention and has met Donald Trump and met J.D. Vance, and he brings a message, I think, that for a group of people that traditionally have not supported Republicans.
Sure.
And so it's excited to have you here. Thank you so much for being here today.
Kevin, I'm so Holy Ghost happy to be here. I'm looking forward to getting to know your audience more, being able to spend time with you here and talk about something that's so critical as it pertains to the election.
Yeah, it's cool. Tell us a little bit about yourself. You are a pastor in Detroit.
In Detroit, but we also influence Pontiac, Flint, and Saginaw. So the last 4 years, we do something called an Urban Roundball Classic, which is essentially Gus Smacker on steroids. So we give out a bunch of money to young people. We also do 18 and up. And it doesn't matter if you're a basketball player. The whole goal is to have enough young people there for me to tell my story and also give them full ride scholarships to Rochester Christian University, Hillsdale, Spring Arbor, and we work with a few other universities.
That's awesome. Give us a little background on your story. How long have you been a pastor for?
Yep. So I preached my first sermon when I was 19 years old.
Do you recall the content?
I do remember. It was 1 Timothy chapter number 6. It was about letting no man despise your youth. I remember that. I'll never forget that. It's the first sermon. I was scared. I actually was preaching my youth group in the biggest and largest church in Detroit at the time, which was Straight Gate Church. Jesus said, enter into the straight gate, for broad is the road and wide is the gate that leads to destruction, and there be many that enter therein. But straight is the gate and narrow is the way that leads to life, and there be few that find it.
And you're 19, and how did you convince either the pastor or the reverend to allow you to stand up there and talk to his people?
You know what? I still got to find out how that took place. But just to be frank with you, Kevin, I was a street pharmacist, man. I was a drug dealer, and my dad, he was in
good drugs.
No. The street drugs.
Yeah, I'm just kidding. Obviously.
I was searching. I was really searching for someone to tell me good job, even though I was doing the wrong thing. And my dad being in prison for murder, I was looking for that affirmation. I believe a lot of black young men, they look for affirmation. That's why they go into the school of the streets. I say that I'm a student of the streets because I remember when my dad wasn't around, I was looking for someone to affirm me, whether it be the guy up the street who was dealing drugs or the guy up the street who was shooting guns. I was in my first drive-by when I was 11 years old on a corner of Kilbourne and Queen in the city of Detroit. So I remember that day, playing Atari video games.
Heck
right?
yeah.
And
you become numb to it, don't you?
Right. And I remember what my mom did, and I thank God for my mother, she's my hero. What she did was she packed us all in like the Clampets. Remember the Clampets,
Come listen to my story about a man named Jed.
My mom packed us all in, my younger brother, my older sister, and I. She moved us to a city called Fraser,
Michigan.
Yeah. And I was the only black kid in an all-white community, and I never knew it. If someone would have came to me and told me DE&I, if someone would have came to me and said, Lorenzo, your coaches treat you different because you're black, or your friends are treating you different because you're black, I would have never known it.
Isn't it crazy? Because I think all the time that if there are issues surrounding race,
sure,
they don't come from youth.
Right.
They come from adults who have experiences, who have prejudices, and they project those onto those people.
100%.
And it is so unfortunate because that's really where the solution starts.
Yeah.
giving kids a chance to realize that it doesn't matter what the color of your skin is.
100%. And for my friends, my Democratic friends, they'll say, America is systemically racist. So I ask them, let's do the math. Let's say that's true. Let's say America is systemically racist. Let's just say everyone in America's racist. And you have all these white men that are behind these doors, smoking cigars and drinking scotch and trying to figure out how they can be racist. Let's just say that's true. Well, let's look at Barack Obama. Let's look at John James. Let's look at Byron Donald.
Colin Powell.
Well, let's continue. Tim Scott. Look at me. You can go on and on. How are all these men and women, I think about Condoleezza Rice, how are all these men and women in positions of authority typically over white people? How can America be systemically racist? It just blows my mind.
I think the left likes divide and conquer.
100%.
And I think the media just fuels that divide and conquer.
Absolutely.
And you know what? It's sad. It's truly sad because black folks and white folks fall victim to it.
100%.
We get caught up in it. We get all amped up, and there's no cause.
And it's interesting why. So the Democrats are very good at identity politics, right? I think about our current president, Joe Biden, how he was essentially a nobody, right? He lost to Pete Buttigieg. He lost to Bernie Sanders in his 2 primaries. And then he goes down to South Carolina, makes a deal with Claiborne, says, I'm going to pick a black woman. And all of a sudden, it's not a blue wave, it's a black wave. He becomes the president. We could deal with that subject.
Yeah, that's not for today. Right. But where was the outrage when he looks at Charlemagne the God and says, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black? What kind of litmus test is that?
But I gotta say this, Kevin.
Talk to me.
The Democratic Party is very smart when it comes to identity politics. This is why they understand metrics. They know that the Republicans don't need the black vote. They understand they can't lose it. They cannot lose. I believe the number is about 25%. If they were to lose 25% of the black vote, they would never be in a position of authority, whether it's gubernatorial, whether it's congressional, whether it's presidential. They cannot lose it. So identity politics is the game they play, right?
Oh, for sure.
Because they know they can't lose the black vote.
And now they're expanding identity politics to Asians. They're expanding identity politics to Latinos. The more they can divide, the more control they get. And, let's talk about getting the message. I'd be a white guy. I might be a threat to your congregation or the people that you speak to. And yet, damn it, I want good things for them.
Sure.
How do we get the message? Can white people convey that message? Does it have to come from black people? What can we do?
This is a very good question. Compassion transcends color.
Absolutely.
People do not care what color you are if they're drowning and you throw them a lifeguard. If you throw them a life preserver. People don't care about the color of your skin when they understand you have a pure compassion for them and you have competency and you want to be able to help them get out of the situation that they're in. So when President Donald Trump came to our church for his birthday weekend, what he did was, I believe he set a trajectory for all Republicans in Michigan that they need to come to the hood. Now,
can I come to your hood?
Absolutely, you can.
I want to talk in your hood.
You're more than welcome to come. We're doing something every Friday, by the way.
Starting this
Friday, come.
You let me know.
We're from 6 to 7. We're doing something called Every Soul to the Polls, right? Where we're having prayer, praise, and political discourse. We're taking data and we're having real conversations about why November 5th matters and why people, they need to come out and vote and why their vote will spill over to every area of their life.
It's crazy. That's the first I've heard of that. That is really cool.
Yeah,
Good
Every
work,
Soul to the
man.
Poll. So yeah, I'm really excited about it.
I like it. This will be the first one this
This
Friday?
will be the first one. So there's 9 Fridays. Believe it or not, there's only 9 Fridays between now and the election. So
But
this
62
Friday,
days?
Yes.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, roughly 62 days. So in Michigan, Wayne County determines a lot
Everything.
for the direction of the state, politics. Heavy black population,
100%.
heavy union population that leans left. How do you get around that, being a black man,
Sure.
being an entrepreneur,
Sure.
being Pastor Zoe and talking to your people, giving them hope, giving them an opportunity to see what great opportunities exist here in Michigan if they break out of the mold. How do you do that?
What we're doing, this is a very good question, Kevin. What we're doing is we're going door to door and we're asking a couple questions. The first question we're asking is, what do you feel about the election? And regardless of what people say, how to respond, the second question we ask, I know it's a very controversial question, but we do this because we feel like in order to get people off their couches and really begin to vote, you need to deal with those pain points that, quite frankly, people aren't dealing with. We then ask people, what if I could show you that the election was compromised in 2020? Would you want to know how? And then we bring up people's voting records. We show people that there are more registered voters in the city of Detroit that actually live in the city of Detroit. We show people, we have people today that we've pulled up their voting record and they could see that a vote was counted, half of their name and half of their grandmother's name. And when you see things like that, people say, well, what can I do about it? And then we tell them to come to the church. When they come to the church this Friday and every Friday after, we will have conversations about policies and why those policies matter. What the Democrats have done is they've tried to make President Donald Trump a demon. They've tried to make him a man that is, an existential threat to democracy. I mean, the whole nine, right? What we're doing is we're removing the man and we're talking about the mission of the Republican Party.
It's funny you say that because I was talking with Eric Castiglia. I think you know Eric from Brighter, Michigan. And of course, this presidential election is about Kamala Harris and Donald Trump.
Sure.
But in that segment, I said, you know what? This isn't about Donald Trump. It's about the First Amendment. It's about the Second Amendment.
Yes.
It's about our federal judges that need to respect the law and the rule of law. It's about our Supreme Court. It's actually about our democracy and conservatives.
Sure.
Even if you don't like Donald Trump and you are a conservative and you believe in America, you may have to swallow hard and pull the lever for Donald Trump.
Absolutely.
Because not voting for him is a vote for Kamala, and voting for Kamala Harris is a betrayal of this country. 100%. That woman does not believe in America, and she's taken us in a direction that I believe we do not want to go.
Well, look at California. I mean, look at her record.
It's awful.
And obviously I lean conservative and I'm a Republican. I've voted Republican my whole life. And let me tell you a little bit of my story of how that happened. My pastor, Bishop Andrew Jonathan Davis Merritt, who was the pastor who allowed me to preach, who pastored the largest church of Detroit at that time. I'll never forget it. It was 2000. And I believe it was Bush and whoever Bush was going against at that time back in 2000. And he asked me if I voted.
Bush 1, Bush 2.
I think it was Bush 2.
Bush 2.
I think it was. And he asked me, did I vote? And you know how your mother will look at you or your dad will look at you and kind of give you a look and you felt like, wow, I felt so much shame because it was as if he looked at me and said, you don't know what your ancestors had to go through for you to have the right to vote. Like, how dare you not vote?
All of our ancestors,
right?
Not just black men and women, all of our 100%. Ancestors, the right to vote.
Yes. So I remember getting off the elevator, I ran, registered, the whole nine. And I've always voted Republican. And this is why. I'm a value-driven voter. I believe that the Democratic Party is a demonic platform because it's anti-God, it's anti-church, it's anti-Israel, it's anti-life, right?
Anti-family.
Absolutely. It's not the Democratic Party of, I would even say Clinton, right? I believe Clinton would be looked at today more as of a Republican or at least a moderate.
Oh, there's no question. So would Kennedy.
Right.
So would some great Democratic presidents, by the way, would be Republicans today. They don't want to go where this party is now.
It's unbelievable. And I tell my people in my congregation that are Democrats, and what I say to them is, we love you and we want you to be a part of this church. I just don't understand how you can reconcile your faith with the platform, because the platform has gone so far. The transgender movement, and we have lesbians in our church. We have gays that come to our church. There's no problem with that. We let them know, look, we love you the same, but the Bible's the Bible. And just because you may be lesbian or you may be transgender, that doesn't mean you should project that on my children. And that's what the left is doing.
Well, just project it in society. You know, it's funny. I'm happy to say I'm heterosexual. I think the most beautiful piece of art in the world is a woman.
100%.
Okay? The most complex piece of art in the world is a woman as well. God, I think every guy can laugh a little bit about that, or at least I can. Niners, I love you, baby. My wife. Yeah, I was at an event when I was running for governor, and there were two lesbian sisters. And I remember looking at them, and they were saying, all the things that public schools should teach, why it's okay to be gay and lesbian. And these gals had cut themselves. They had tats all over, piercings all over, the color of their hair. They were really rebelling, looking for attention.
Sure.
And I remember asking them what I thought was a really succinct question and making a statement. The first thing that I said was, because they were talking about their parents not accepting them. And I said, it's a challenge. Here you are talking about people not accepting you. And the way you look and the way you've acted might be part of that reason. I just want you to consider it. I said, because even with your parents, they're struggling with the fact that you guys might be different than what they thought about when you were conceived.
Sure.
I don't believe any parent says, God, I hope when my kid is born that they're transgender,
Right.
or I hope that they're gay,
Sure.
or I hope that they're a cat.
Right.
That's some crazy stuff. But a parent never loves a kid less.
That's so true.
And I think that the rub in today's society is, I don't care if you're gay. I don't care if you think that you are something different than what you are. Don't rub it in my face.
Yes.
I don't want the gay day parade or the cross-dressers with my kids or somebody else's kids. And come on. It's not, I don't, they can be whoever they are. They can be how they are. But you don't have to rub it in my face. I'm not kissing my wife in public. There's no public sex. We're not walking around 3/4 naked or trying to make nature different. All that is acting out.
Right.
I
don't even know. Kevin, literally, I'm at Arts Beats and Eats, and I'm like, okay, she's 6'8". I just don't know anymore. But I believe that this is a perfect example of what the Black conservative movement ought to be, because when you look at the LGBTQ plus community, back in the day in the 50s, 60s, 70s, you couldn't come out the closet. Then the movie Philadelphia, remember Tom Hanks and Denzel Washington. And I remember as a kid looking at that, and I felt like, wow, it humanized the gay movement, right? And for Black conservatives, for them to come out the closet, they need to feel the community that I feel. When I go to the MIGOP gathering a couple of Saturdays ago, when I went to West Palm, right? When I was at the RNC, the love that I felt in the community that I felt, I could come out of the closet. And I believe there are so many Black conservatives, Kevin, that are in Michigan, in Detroit, preachers I know personally that have told me, Pastor, I vote conservative, but I'm so afraid to come out the closet, so to speak, because I'll lose my church. I'll get intimidated. I don't feel the same community that you feel. Kevin, we've had people come from all over the world, literally, to our church since the RNC.
Yeah.
And it's been such a blessing to feel the conservative community. And I think if we're going to flip Wayne County, which I feel is my mission, to flip Wayne County red, to bring Wayne County, make it red.
God bless you, man. You rock on.
We're going to do it together. We're fighting a good fight of faith here. But I believe there's that undercurrent of Black people who feel like, you know what? I really don't believe in the agenda of the left. I really do want to be conservative, but how can I have the community so I can have the confidence to come out the closet?
There's a phrase, and I think you got to look deeper. And the phrase is, all men, and I'm going to paraphrase and say, all people are created equal.
Sure.
Society and how it applies norms are what at times are not equal.
Sure.
But in America,
oh yeah,
there is greater freedom There is more upward mobility, more opportunity than any other place in the world.
100%.
I just came from Africa.
Oh, wow. Cool.
And I was in a country, I'm not going to name it, 98% unemployment.
Horrible. Wow.
98%. The
Lord have
average
mercy.
income, $100 US a year. 450,000 babies a year die from malaria.
Wow. Preventable diseases.
A preventable disease.
Wow.
And the president of that country flies around
Horrible.
in an $80 million jet. The Chinese have bought all his resources and they are stripping that country. And these people are going to be lost because China doesn't care about the people.
Of course not.
All they care about is them working.
Yes.
And working for a low wage.
Right.
And getting all of the resources back. But I digress. But coming back to America, it is the land of the free. It is the land of opportunity.
Absolutely.
And instead of fighting it, I think we're at a stage where I hope that the Black community, the Latino community, says, you know what? Education's important. And it's not okay that democratically run unions are graduating kids who can't read and saying, you deserve to go to college. They're setting them up to fail because they get to college, they can't read. But we're going to give you a diploma.
Who does
that?
But
you don't even have the skill set to exercise that diploma. And then they get angry at society.
Right.
You know, Latinos the same way. You got to be able to read. You have to be able to write. Sure. You have to be able to do arithmetic. Skilled labor is what America needs.
Absolutely.
Today. The days of, being unskilled. And when I say unskilled, I'm putting education into that.
Sure.
Education is a skill.
Absolutely.
And everyone has access. We got to figure out a way, Pastor Zoe.
Yeah.
To have the Black community. Say, being able to read.
Sure.
Is the price of admission.
Yeah. This is so complex.
It
Pontiac, served in Pontiac, which is adjacent to where we are here. We're doing a podcast today. And quite frankly, I didn't know that Black people were in poverty. I didn't know that Black people couldn't do math, couldn't read. I didn't know about the bed
It's not
bugs.
just Black people.
Well,
It's a sad thing.
Right. It's everywhere. It's all throughout our country, But for our context proper, I didn't understand that until one day. I'll never forget. It was Stan Matthews, who's an engineer, retired engineer at Chrysler. He came into my office crying. And, Stan's got as much emotion as his microphone. For him to be crying, I'm like, he's like, we started our computer lab, Pastor, and this young lady came in and she could not read her own name on a sheet of paper.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. So think about this. If you are functionally illiterate, which 40% of Detroit is.
I think it's higher.
But the kids is 80%.
Yeah.
It's
80%. I'm sorry.
The kids
correct.
are 80%.
Kids are 80% total.
But the adults, so it makes sense, right?
Right.
If I'm functionally illiterate as an adult, 40%, then it doubles for my child. I'm assuming that my child is going to school and they're getting education. That's why we're looking to start a private Christian school. That's why we're looking to work with Hillsdale. Our church building actually was built as a school. So our goal is to have a pre-K through 12 private Christian school. So we don't just continue to talk about how bad it is in terms of education, but we use our rights and our liberties in this country, start a private Christian school so we can have a feeder into a place like Hillsdale College.
When again, going back to Africa, we went to a kids' school.
Wow.
And it was interesting because these kids desired to learn how to read.
100%.
The disconnect was, and these kids are walking 10, 12 miles a day each way to be fed, to be educated, and going home to parents that can't read, that don't care, that maybe can't take care of them because of the situation. Their challenge is not only being able to read the word, but to comprehend.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of Beyond Basics?
Of course. I know Pam is a good friend. We got grants together.
I'm going to have Pam on the show here. It is critical.
She's
It is
amazing.
absolutely critical.
She's a hero. She's
Yeah.
a hero. You know, Pam and I have done a lot together. Jack Ursula.
Yeah.
And I heard her, you know, they're together 19
Great
years.
couple.
I love both of them. Look at them as, look at Jack as an uncle to me. And this is the problem, Kevin. When these young people get education, they become targets. We would see young people.
Help me understand.
We would see them with the books, walking through the community. And then they get in the house and somebody take the book and they throw it at them. Who do you think you are? So now you're being taught to go upward. You're being immersed in the culture of literacy, and now you're being bullied because of it. That's why we believe you must have a private Christian school where these young people are physically with you every day. They don't leave. It's a boarding school. It's Cranbrook in the hood.
Oh, okay.
You know, you dip Cranbrook in the hood. You understand what I'm saying?
I hear you.
That's the only way to do it, because what I've noticed is these young people become targets.
Well, it's interesting. Rack It Up Detroit is another organization.
Yeah, Dwayne, I think.
Yeah. Well, it's in Detroit.
Yeah, but Dwayne is, what's his name? Dwayne or no, Derek. Derek is his name.
Yeah.
Derek, yeah. He's a member of the DAC. He's a great guy.
He's a great guy.
Yeah.
And when you put like-minded people who have a desire to learn, people who are interested in learning and in advancing themselves, it becomes really powerful. And to coin the phrase, it's a safe place.
Absolutely.
I think that's a fabulous idea. Where do you stand with that?
So right now, we're meeting with Dr. Arn. It's amazing how God just allowed that to happen. Meeting with him
He's
on the 19th.
a buddy of mine as well. If you need any help, I'll call
Larry
right now.
I do need help. I do. So we've given him a proposal, and obviously, you know, with what happened at the RNC, we're sharing with him the concept of pre-K through third grade. And we need a little bit of funding just to kick that part off. Once we prove the concept and once people can see that it actually works, then it's going to fund itself. Because I believe that there are a lot of people that are sick and tired of being sick and tired. They're looking at our educational system and they're saying, you know what? It's not working. How about we give to a private Christian school so we can make it work?
Yeah, we need to revamp. What's a crazy statistic, and the left can't answer. Since we have created the Department of Education at the federal level, every single year, the United States standing, as far as an educated community, has regressed. Every single year since inception.
Be careful. You're going to make a lot of people mad. I think they have an $80 billion budget. I think that's what they're
money well spent.
Yeah, right.
Money really, really well spent. You know, in Michigan, you look at the number of administrators in public schools. You look at the number of principals in public schools. They have skyrocketed in the associated compensation and costs with those advanced people, while teachers have diminished and students have diminished or stayed the same. And it is an authoritative state that these unions are running, and they aren't taking care of business. And we got to crack that.
100%.
I think the teachers are good people.
Absolutely.
You know, and they want to have kids that are energized and bright and want to learn.
Yes.
You know, in the system, and there is a system, is beating them down, and it's wrong.
Yeah, school supplies. I mean, I think about it. You know, when we look at the National Retail Report, teachers are taking money out of their own pocket to get supplies to the tune of $875 per household. I mean, think about that.
That's crazy.
Dr. Audie, who runs the Detroit Rescue Mission, he's doing a backpack drive. And this is what he said. He said that to fill one backpack is the equivalent of trying to buy an entire household Christmas. Those are out of his own mouth. We've done thousands of backpacks in Pontiac. We've done thousands of them. We've given away cars, the whole nine, right here in Pontiac. And you know what you come to find out? The students don't need school supplies. They need somebody to be able to sit there and teach them how to read. Yeah. That's more importantly than anything. They need someone to read to them. The teachers, Kevin, they don't even have Kleenex, Clorox wipe. We've painted these schools in Pontiac. We've painted all the schools. It's amazing to see these teachers. They have zero support. To your point, the administrators, they're getting all the money in the world, but the teachers, they're not getting the support they need.
Well, yeah, fancy buildings don't teach you how to read.
Right.
Great artificial turf football fields don't teach you how to read. And they're a heck of a lot more fun. Reading's hard work.
Absolutely.
But, you know, going back to Pam and Beyond Basics, If literacy is described as grade level reading equivalency, her program can deliver over 93%.
Yeah.
Currently, we are under 50%. And by the way, it's just not in Pontiac. It's just not in Flint.
It's all over.
Grosse Pointe Public Schools.
It's everywhere. It's just nosedive.
Oakland County, nosedive. And it's because of the programs. And it's because instead of doing the hard work, they say, we need, fancier desks. I'll tell you what, I'd rather sit on the ground and be able to read than sit in a fancy seat and be dumb.
Absolutely. But it's hard to hold people accountable. Our governor doesn't want to do it. The unions don't want to do it. Nobody wants to hold these teachers accountable, and specifically the administrators accountable to the metrics.
Let me ask you, I think the teachers are performing to the metrics. I think, again, I am a fan of teachers. I've got teachers in my family, and they are really concerned about their students. And yet, if they speak out against what's going on, they're punished.
It's over.
They put a thumb on these people. They had my sister-in-law was teaching, and she happens to be conservative. And her union group was driving around and reporting people that didn't have Democrat signs in their yards. It was mandatory. And the reps were coming in, and the principals were coming in and saying, Zoe, what are you doing with the Trump sign up in your yard?
That's like at the RNC type of thing.
You want to raise? You want to teach that? Get that damn thing out of there.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's intimidation. And that's why a lot of people in Wayne County, it's hard for them to come out of the closet, so to speak, because they don't know that there'll be community there. But I want to let them know that we're here, that 180 Church is here, that I'm here, that we are here to give them the community that they need, and let them know you can be conservative. You can come out of your conservative cave. You can come out of the conservative closet, so to speak.
You've got a right.
Right.
And if you don't exercise your right, you are a victim.
People are scared.
I get it.
To the point that you made. People driving around, unions looking, and you lose your social position.
Oh, it's Big Brother.
Grant. Right.
Look at all the cameras. Everyone's watching. Look at your phone. They're listening. I get it. But that's about control.
Yeah.
And that's about intimidation. And fear. COVID was about fear.
I can't believe they tried to shut down my church. I didn't do it. They called me every week.
I think that's awesome.
I didn't do it. They called me every week. They said the governor's going to come with state troopers and arrest you. You know why we kept preaching and we kept ministering? Because I live in America.
Yeah.
The freedom of religion.
Yeah.
I know there's one thing. You cannot tell me to shut down
religion.
This
governor would threaten you, but she sure as heck isn't going to arrest a black pastor in Detroit.
I got immunity.
Because hey, that might look bad.
Right. I do have immunity there. I like that part.
There you go.
And I really, and on our governor's point, I really feel personally, I have no problem with Gretchen. I like her, but her policies, she is crippling our state. People are leaving. Are leaving. Our population she's selling out to China. We know what happened in Big Rapids. I don't know if we were there together last week with JD Vance. Yeah. And it's just amazing to see what's happening. People are leaving left and right. And we need someone like you. We need a governor that can bring this state back to the place. Snyder headed up into the right. He really did. I know there was an issue that happened with Flynn. I know he gets blamed for that. I know he's a good man. Yeah. I know he gets blamed for that. And I know there are people that know him personally, that he was willing to jump on the sword for everybody else. I know that personally.
That happens to be a fact.
Yeah, I know.
And sometime we can talk about that at another occasion. But
sure.
The people in Michigan, when it comes to what Gretchen's doing, should be outraged over this Chinese battery plant. Now think of this. We're giving Michigan tax dollars to an enemy of our country. Really, that makes them an enemy of our state.
100%.
China wants to come in. They control 85% of the resources that are going to be used, so we're paying China for the resource. They want to bring in Chinese workers, so they're displacing U.S. workers. They're promising that they're going to have X number of jobs, but MEDC doesn't hold anybody accountable.
100%.
You know, it is just so contrary to common sense. And yet they want to fight real solutions. You know, small nuclear reactors, if we want to have less expensive energy, small nuclear reactors,
Yeah.
by the way, the cleanest, safest power that you can have. Electric vehicles are not the solution. Hydrogen and some other technologies, hybrid technologies are the solution. But you know what the problem is? If you go into hybrid technology, it strengthens the middle class and government loses control.
Yeah.
How does it strengthen the middle class? Well, how about 1,850 more parts that need to be produced? You talk about a manufacturing opportunity for America. We don't want that. 60% of automotive workers are going to be out of a job, and the government's implying what? They're going to make solar panels?
I know.
Come on. That is not the solution.
Well, you know what? You're logical. You're a business guy. That's what I like about guys like you, President Trump. You're a business person. You understand the state. It's a business. The government. It's a business. We want to run it logically.
Well, you know what's crazy is there are a lot of really good legislators out there. Really good legislators. And you know what they start thinking? That qualifies me to move up, to run the business. And legislators like to spend money and create laws, and that's their worth. Man, they're going to tell you how to do it. And legislators say, wow, I'm so good at this. I'm going to run a $93 billion budget. And, I've never run a business before.
Never run anything.
But maybe if I get more money, I can give everybody what they want.
Right.
Politics, you know, has become a business, and it's billions of dollars. I don't know about you, but every day, 30, 40, 50 requests to donate. I get phone calls
100%.
from every candidate in the state, and God bless them. I'd like to support them all.
Sure.
But simply, you know, can't do it. Running government is a business. You know something that's crazy? We talked about it on another show. Post-COVID, you know who the biggest employer is?
Pharmaceutical company, maybe?
No, government.
Wow. Makes sense.
Government.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Has created more jobs than the private sector.
That's so horrible.
And government-controlled entities have created more jobs. This isn't the America that we used to have, and we got to be really careful.
Sure.
You know, 250 years of a great experiment, and it's fragile.
It's very fragile. We need to fight. We need to fight for Israel. We need to fight for our freedoms. We need to fight for our president to get back in office. And we need to fight that Mike Rogers gets in, John James. We got a lot of work to do. Barrett, we got a lot of work to do.
We can't blink, and we can't take a day off.
Sure.
And I really applaud the work you're doing and
Thank
the
you so
courage
much.
that you are showing, because it takes courage and it takes conviction. And you're working not for yourself, you're working for other people.
Yeah.
And I believe, just getting to know you now, I believe that you look at things like I did. Because I always thought if my people did great, that I'd do okay.
Absolutely.
And if my customers were happy, my people would do great.
Yes.
And creating an environment for people to be successful in, and showing them where we're going and how we're going to get there and who they can come to for help and how they're doing along the way.
Yeah.
And what's in it for them.
Sure.
If they follow you. Heck, you sold me. I'm coming down to the 180.
Come on,
I want to listen, but I also want to talk.
Absolutely. Come.
Because you know something? All men are created equal. And if you're an American, you're my brother and my sister.
100%.
And we are lucky. And we need to support each other.
Yeah.
It's not going to be easy.
No, it's going to be a fight, but it's a good fight.
It's a good fight. And you can't take your eye off the ball. You can't get distracted like the left likes to do.
Sure.
Because then we lose. Then we become divided.
Yeah.
You know?
In Michigan, we have an opportunity. We have an opportunity in the Republican Party to change the trajectory in terms of our messaging to communities that look like mine, Latino communities as well. And I believe that this is the best time of our party to be inclusive in a way that we're going to see Republicans from every sector of society come into the party, and we're going to be up and to the right. I really believe that.
Well, you know what? I believe that as well. And I am really looking forward to working with you.
Thank you.
And working for you to achieve that goal.
Thank you, Kevin.
It's interesting. I say this out on when I was campaigning, that there's a time to learn,
Sure.
a time to earn, there's a time to serve, but I've added something else. There's a time to sacrifice.
I love that. Amen.
And it spells less. Learn, earn, serve, sacrifice.
Less.
And less will get us more.
Oh, I love that.
It's good stuff, brother. I hope you use that.
Man, that's preaching good, man. What you doing this Sunday, man?
Pastor Sewell, this has been great. And there's a message. And I want people to know where they can connect with you.
You can connect with me on all social media platforms, and you can go to 180church.cc. We may vote different, we may think different, but we're all called to love the same. God bless you.
Thanks so much for joining us today. It's been great having Lorenzo Sewell, Pastor Zoe from the 180 Church, talk about the Black community and how their conservative values can be reflected in voting. And Beyond the Echo goes to places like this where people don't normally go. Please watch us. We're on every social media platform. We drop every Tuesday. And we're looking forward to sharing the issues that affect Michigan, the issues that affect America, and get outside Beyond the Echo. Thanks so much. Thanks for tuning in to Beyond the Echo. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe so you never miss an update. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so drop us a comment and share the podcast with your friends. Stay connected and keep the conversation going by following us on social media. Until next time, keep exploring Beyond the Echo.